Welcome back for episode 53 of the Blacksburg Buzz. We've got 12 Hokies in the Olympic Games right now, 10 athletes, one coach, and one extra staff member. So it's a great time to be supporting Virginia Tech and showing that the school's turning out some top athletes, especially the swimmers. The swim team has a very strong representation in the 2024 Paris Olympics. And, you know, Coach Sergio Lopez Miro, he's doing a great job with this team. They're placing very high on the national level at school and then representing multiple different countries on the Olympic stage. But just a fantastic group of Hokies to show off for the school. We'll break down some of their performances and how they've been doing so far this summer. Some of them are already finished with all of their events. Some of them have a little bit more left to do, but we'll break down what they've done so far and if they have anything else coming up this summer. So, first off, we'll start off with the long list of Hokies swimmers. There are a bunch representing several different countries, a majority swimming for Spain, but a few others as well. Leading off, it's Carlos Cole Marti. He is swimming for Spain in the 4x100 medley relay, a 2020 through the present Hokie athlete. This summer, he was unfortunately in the qualifier. Their medley relay got DQ'd. The anchor leg made a false start, and so they weren't able to move on past the qualifier. But still, having any athletes with the team that can represent our school and show that we've got athletics, we can do so many different sports at a high level. I think it really means a lot to recruiting, to NIL, to donations and whatnot. Really speaks to the level of what Virginia Tech does with everything. It's not just academics, it's not just comp sci, it's not just engineering. There's other stuff on top of that. And having a bunch of athletes is awesome for how the school looks on the outside. But before we continue, let's talk a little bit more about today's video sponsor, BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online, the game starts here. In addition to him, Luis Dominguez Colon is also swimming for Spain in the 4x100 free relay and the 4x200 freestyle relay. 2021 through the present Hokie athlete right now. He competed in the 4x100 with another Hokie who we'll be covering in just a little bit, also for Spain, Mario Moyanes. But we'll get to him in just a little bit. Results for Luis Dominguez Colon. He didn't advance past the qualifier in either of those two events, the 4x100 relay and the 4x2 relay. He finished in 9th overall in the 4x100 and then 13th overall in the 4x2 free relay. So, pretty solid placing right there. Just a little bit outside the cut. I believe it was top 8 in those events that moved past the qualifier. And, finishing 9th in one and then 13th in the other, just right on the edge. But a really good showing for him and his team in Spain. Just couldn't quite make the cut into the semis. Then next up, it's Maxine Egner. She's swimming for Botswana in the 100 free. An incoming freshman for the team. So very interesting there that we've got an incoming Virginia Tech athlete already representing in the Olympics. Clearly an absolute stud swimming in the Olympics at that young of an age. That's very impressive. She was also a flag bearer for Botswana, interestingly enough. holds the 100-meter freestyle national record for Botswana, 57.25, which she set in earlier in 2024 at the Swedish Open Championships. Results in these Olympics in the 100 free, she wasn't able to advance past the qualifier, finished 27th overall. But for someone so young, even just being in the Olympics and representing your country, that's a huge step. 27th overall in the Olympics, it's nothing to shy upon. That's nothing to frown upon. That's a great finish, and with plenty of years of collegiate swimming ahead of her, there's a lot of room for improvement there, and already performing at such a high level. That's going to be an interesting one. If you're into swimming, I would keep an eye on her, because already a top 30 swimmer in the Olympics, I mean, that's pretty impressive. Next up is Ian Ho, representing Hong Kong in the 50 freestyle. 2015 to 2019 was swimming with Tech. Wasn't able to advance past the qualifier either. 24th overall in the 50 free. So a lot of Hokies here that weren't quite able to make the cut past the qualifier, but that's really hard to do, let's be honest. In a lot of events, it's only, the top 8, or, in some of the larger ones, a little bit more than that, but that's impressive either way, just making it that far. It's really tough to get into the qualifier. We've seen some really top tier athletes over the course of these Olympics, sort of fall off a little bit and not perform quite at the standard that they were expected to. The first thing I think of is that men's track relay, where they were expected to take home the gold. They set a new world record back in, it was either the qualifying or the semis, and then they weren't able to get the gold in the finals. So, that's one of the things with competition. You never know what's going to happen. You're not always going to perform up to 100%. Sometimes you only got 98%. But a lot of Hokies just making it that far, and that's huge. Next up, I told you we're going to talk about him a little bit later, Mario Moya-Yanes, also representing Spain in the 100 fly, the 4x1 freestyle relay, in the 4x1 medley relay. Athlete at Tech since 2021. Wasn't able to advance in the 4x100 relay, finished in 9th overall and 25th overall in that 100 fly. So 2 times not able to advance. And then the 4x100 medley relay, as I mentioned earlier, false start on the anchor leg from a different athlete, not a Hokie, which DQ'd the team, and they're unfortunately not able to make it past that qualifier. That's one of the toughest things I think about, timed events when it comes to swimming and track and whatnot, things like that. Those false starts, they can really kill you. It's tough because you want to start quick. Obviously, you don't want to be slow off the blocks. You don't want to be slow into the water. But at the same time, if you're too quick, all of a sudden you get a DQ. It's a tough spot to be in, and really unfortunate that that last leg just left a little bit too early on the wall. I believe they didn't even call it in live time when they went back to review it. Then they figured out it was a DQ. It wasn't obvious enough to even, call live from the officials. And honestly, that hurts even worse because, you finish, you think you got there and you got all the way through without any penalties and whatnot, and then they go back and review it, and all of a sudden you're DQ'd. You don't even get a time that counts, and you don't get to move on automatically. Really unfortunate for that Spanish relay that just, got that DQ from the anchor leg on the false start. But, that's just the way the sport goes sometimes, and I'm sure next time they'll be able to learn from that. Moving on, Emily Santos is representing Panama in the 100 breaststroke. An incoming freshman as well for the 2024 class. Also wasn't able to advance past the qualifying round. Finished in 30th overall in the 100 breaststroke. So unfortunate once again, but as well, an incoming freshman in this 2024 class, already representing her country in the Olympics. That's 2 really strong female swimmers that are, joining Tech this next season, and I think that's going to be really exciting. they're already performing this well. I can't wait to see what they might do. And, just within the ACC, not even necessarily up to the national level, but, just excited to see what we can find out of them. The swimming program has been phenomenal over the last several seasons. You know, he's led a good group, and they've placed very highly over the last, I believe, 6 years that he's been leading the charge. So a really impressive showing, and one more Spanish swimmer for the Hokies before we move on to some other things. Carmen Weiler Sastre representing Spain as well. So, as I said, a lot of swimmers representing Spain. By my count, it's 4. So, quite a few representing the Spanish. Weiler Sastre, the 100 backstroke and the 200 backstroke. An athlete at Tech since 2022. She was actually the first female Spanish swimmer to break 1 minute in the 100-meter backstroke, 59.76, which occurred last year back in 2023. Results from these Olympics: advanced in the 100 backstroke, passed the qualifying round, placed in 8th in that qualifier with a 59.57, which actually set another new Spanish national record, surpassing her old record that she set in June by, I believe, a couple tenths of a second. Then placed 9th in the semis to get just barely knocked out. She swam a 59.72 in that 100 backstroke. And then in the 200 backstroke, she did advance as well, was 12th overall in the event, a time of 2 minutes, 10 seconds, and .09, and then got knocked out of the semis again. 13th overall with a 2 minute, 9 seconds, .99. So, just barely improved on that time by a tenth of a second. But unfortunately, sometimes everyone saves a little bit extra once they get out of the qualifying round if they know they've got it in him. And Carmen Weiler Sastre just wasn't able to, just barely got knocked out of those semifinal rounds. Now, before we jump into some basketball and some track, we've got to talk about Coach Sergio Lopez Miro. He's coaching the Iceland team this summer, a 4-time Olympic coach, 2-time Olympian himself. This is the second time he's coached in the Olympics since beginning his stint at Virginia Tech as the coach. He was last year for the Singapore team. Coach actually won a bronze medal back in the day, 1988 Seoul Olympics in the 200 breaststroke, a time of 2 minutes 15.21, which was actually the national record at the time when he was competing. So set a record for the nation. No medals so far for his Iceland team in terms of swimming. I don't believe Iceland has any medals at the moment. Can be tough for them. Obviously, a little bit of a smaller country when you're, comparing to some others. I mean, you've got the powerhouses in the Olympics, like, obviously the United States, obviously China's been a powerhouse, Australia's been doing really well, and France and Great Britain as well. I mean, France, awesome as the host. They've been killing it. Saw a stat today while I was watching that typically the countries are just able to completely step it up a notch. They see a big boost in their medal counts. They took, I believe it was the averages of the last 2 Olympic Games where they weren't hosting, and a couple of countries saw massive bumps. I'm talking 30, 40 medals. And France has had a big bump so far with time to add on to that. So pretty impressive stuff for them. But Coach Miro has done a great job. He's leading that Iceland team this summer. Haven't been able to get any medals at the moment, but he's brought a great group of Hokies along to the games with him, and that's pretty impressive. Now we'll move over into the track. Neil Gorley representing Great Britain in the 1500, a athlete with Virginia Tech from 2014 to 2018. He's still currently actively competing in the 1500. He made it into the semis on Sunday. I'm recording this on Sunday, so earlier today he made it into the semis and is now advancing into the finals. He placed third in those semis in order to advance. A really solid run from him. I was pretty impressed watching it. It was quite a close race as well. He was just 0.41 seconds from the top time and just 0.14 from second place, both of which were American athletes. So a very close race right there. I mean, less than half a second separating third and first place, and just over a tenth between second and third. That's a pretty tight race. There were some really tight ones in that 1500, and I think the final is going to be pretty stacked. The other heat as well was pretty impressive and very close too. It came right down to the wire, and I think the final is going to be a really good race. So Gorley's got his work cut out for him. An impressive run so far, third overall, advancing to the final. We'll look for him to do pretty good, although he's representing a different country. And then men's basketball. You can't not talk about Nickeil Alexander-Walker for Canada in the 5-on-5 basketball. Played from 2017 to 19 at Tech. He got drafted by the Pelicans, then was moved over to the Jazz after a couple seasons, now on the Timberwolves. This year, he had a pretty decent year with Minnesota. I'd say it's probably his best one since leaving New Orleans in the 21-22 season. Seen a little bit of a resurgence in his numbers after a couple tough years. He's had a pretty rough go about it, though, in the Olympics so far. The team is currently in the quarterfinal stage against France, which will begin on Tuesday. The Canada team advanced from the group stage with wins over Greece by 7 points, Australia by 10, and Spain by 3 to move out of that group stage. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he really hasn't played that well in the Olympics. If I remember correctly, he was just on a heater during like Olympic tryouts and trials and whatnot. But so far in Paris, he's 0 for 8 field goal shooting, 0 for 5 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the free throw line. He's had a pretty tough go so far. And, that's unfortunate. He's got a good team around him. I think Canada's got a pretty solid team. I don't know if I think they're going to medal, but my picks would probably be the US, France, and then after that, that's where it really gets tough. But I think France could take the silver, or somehow they could pull off an upset. They've got a pretty solid group, but Canada does as well. I mean, you've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, a couple of really tough athletes on that Canadian team. But Alexander-Walker, he's had a pretty tough time so far in the Olympics. We'll look for him to bounce back in the quarterfinal stage against France, but that's a tough opponent to go against. So we'll have to see how that goes. That's definitely going to be a game that I'm going to have my eye on. I think it could be a really fun one. And then shifting into women's basketball, Sammy Hill is also representing Canada on their team, an athlete from 2013 to 17. The team was eliminated in the group phase. They went 0 for 3 against France, Australia, and Nigeria. Australia was the closest loss by just 5 points. Nigeria a little bit more with a 9-point loss. And then France kind of blew them out by 21. Sammy Hill had 15 points across the 3 games. Shot 33% from the field, 20% from 3, 100 from the free throw line on just a couple attempts. Had 1 rebound and 1 assist to add on to it. And then a really interesting thing. The last person we're covering today is that extra staff member that Virginia Tech's sending. It's James Morrison, also known as, I believe it's DJ Tempo, is working with the USA team. I guess he's like the DJ for the house or something. The 2010 through the present DJ in Lane Stadium. So that was a really interesting fact that I saw when I was researching what Hokie athletes I could find in the games, and that really stood out to me that we sent a DJ along for Team USA for the house. I think that's pretty cool that, the Lane Stadium DJ is out there in Paris helping out the team, getting them pumped and helping them get some pretty solid medals. They're definitely running up a decent medal count. I would have liked to see a little bit more at this point in the game, but doing pretty well. They've really dominated in a couple sports. I mean, there's just some ridiculous athletes on the USA team. I mean, Simone Biles has had an awesome Olympics so far. She's been killing it. Suni Lee was doing really well as well. Despite all of her difficulties, she she could she couldn't even compete months ago, and she worked back, fought her way back into the Olympics. That's very impressive. Obviously the men's basketball team is definitely one of the teams to beat. I mean, they just have a ridiculous group out there. They always do. Uh, by far the favorite to win gold just about every year. Just insanity. Some great track athletes. Noah Lyles grabbed the 100-meter gold today. And I know he's got the 200 coming up, and I believe he's the favorite to do it. If not, he's definitely in that top mix. So, the U.S. is putting up a good medal count. Uh, Not really any Hokies representing the United States, but there's a few out there that are making a push. We could see Neil Gorley get a medal. I mean, after third in the semis in the 1500-meter race, definitely going to have to be on a lookout for the finals because he's right up there in the mix. I definitely think he has the potential to medal. But a great group of Virginia Tech athletes representing the school. It's really exciting to, watch them compete in the Olympics. I mean, you see someone who you go, oh, I saw that person around campus. I I went to a swim meet. I went to a track meet. I went to a basketball game. I saw that person play at my school, and now you get to watch them on TV in the Olympics. It's pretty cool to do. So, a great group of 12 that Virginia Tech sent off to compete, coach, and help out around, and a really interesting Olympics so far to watch. So definitely keep an eye on those 10 athletes. Watch some Iceland swimming as well. See how Coach does with his group, and maybe catch the music for Team USA because who knows? It could be the Lane Stadium DJ queuing up the songs for you. So that's all we've got today for episode 53. A bunch of Hokies in the Olympics. Stay tuned later this week. We'll have more coming. And let me know what events that you've really enjoyed watching and, what you think might happen. It's been a fun Olympics so far. I think it's definitely one of the coolest events around. You get to see some different sports that maybe you don't see on TV as much. They're not quite as popular. I like watching some of the ones that, you know, don't really get a lot of coverage, like a handball or whatnot. They can just be fun sports to watch and catch up on. So let me know what you're watching, what you're expecting this season, and stay tuned for some more stuff coming up this week.